Hi, welcome to another episode of How to Make a Dollar. My name is Brian and I'm joined today by Vítor, a three times founder. Vítor, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Brian. Hello. Thank you for inviting me to be here, and it will be a pleasure to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in general, I guess.
Yeah, you've been busy with three startups or products behind your belt or under your belt. How did you, well, tell me, take me to the time when you realized you're an entrepreneur. What were you doing then? And what was the transition from what you were doing to the first product you built?
Yeah. There was a trigger for sure, but even before the trigger, back in the university, so I studied economics in Lisbon, in Portugal, and at that time I already selected one subject that it was about entrepreneurship. So basically, we had to come up with a project, potential company, and we did that in a group. It was not that serious at the time. I guess nobody really wanted to go to the market with that. But I was already interested in these topics, in creating something. It didn't need to be a startup, but a business that I could create and then manage and grow. But back in 2015, I do believe around that, I was working half of my time in Angola, doing consultancy projects, and I had an opportunity to go to a new company in Angola. But something happened, like in the markets, like the kind of oil crisis, prices went down, oil prices, which was bad to that specific country, and so I canceled my move to the new company, and so I found myself without a job, but with some savings aside. And I remember that I was watching Dragon's Den, like the UK version of Shark Tank, something like that. And I saw those guys that were doing car pickup and delivery to take, your car to the repair shop and then get it back to you. And I was like, I want this to myself because I don't, when I was doing that consultancy job, I had no time to go to the repair shop. I moved to a new city, so I had no, trust relationship with local repair shops. And I started, trying to find in my own country and city, that it was Lisbon at the time, if there was already a service like that, and there was no service. So basically, I just took that British idea, let's call it, and business model, and started to try to replicate in Lisbon. And the idea was to be just a regular business. It was not a tech business. But then I discovered that it was possible to, based on the car plate number, to generate instant quotes for car maintenance. And so, okay, this could also be interesting because there is a lot of lack of trust in that sector, and it's nice to know how much you are going to pay when your car goes to the repair shop before it's already there, and some work being performed. So yeah, that was the trigger. Basically, I guess the oil crisis back in 2014, 15, something like that. And then because I saw that episode of Dragon's Den, and I started, to try to create that car pickup and delivery and maintenance service that then became, a platform with instant quotes, with the option for car pickup and delivery, and also, rated repair shops, kind of Airbnb experience, but for repair shops.
Right. You make it sound so simple, I should say, But how did you get from that business to, having three products launched in the tech industry?
Yeah, so of course, it was my first experience creating a business. Yeah, and then also a startup. So a lot of mistakes were done. Like the main one was that, so as it was at the end of the day a marketplace, a car maintenance marketplace, you need to serve both the repair shops and the car owners. For the car owners, the value proposition made all the sense, but actually the repair shops were not that interested to be on the platform. But because of small wins that we had along the way, like getting prizes, getting an important commercial partnership here in Portugal with a well-known online brand, then getting investment from an American-based fund. All of that kind of delayed the death of that startup. But in the end, it was not scaling. It was not in the path for the goals that the founding team envisioned. So then there was an opportunity by the end of 2020 to, because I believe that startup ecosystem is not that big, or it's easy for people to get to know each other. And in a small country like Portugal, it's even easier. So I got the opportunity to take over a new, a startup. It was not new. It was a startup already on the market, but because I already knew one of the partners, because of the ecosystem, I had this opportunity to, leave Easy Repair. That was the car maintenance marketplace that was not growing as expected, and then embrace a new challenge in the employee experience space.
Awesome. So what is your greatest success so far?
Good question. This sounds too humble, but I really believe that is all these learnings during the journey to something bigger that is still yet to come. For instance, trying to answer more directly to you now, that second startup that I was invited to become CEO, that is still on the market, it's called Tap My Back. So when I joined in January 2021, the goal was to build a 2 years plan to kind of revamp the business and then sell to new owners, sell the startup to new owners. And so we didn't accomplish that in 2 years, but it was in 2 years and a half, more or less. So in the end, still we were, the team was successful in growing the revenue of that employee experience SaaS business, and then sell it to new owners. So looking to my startup experience, I would say that so far that was the biggest achievement.
Right. Awesome. And what are you working on now? What's keeping you busy today?
Yeah. So to provide a little bit of context, Tap My Back was created several years ago inside the startup studio here in Portugal, which is called Build Up Labs. So at the end of the day, basically, I'm an employee of this startup studio called Build Up Labs. I'm an entrepreneur in residence. So of course, before I was only with Tap My Back, focused only on that. But after the exit, me and the rest of the resident team, we continued creating new products. What we do is basically come up with ideas in a specific scope, or taking into consideration several principles, like it should be nowadays B2B, software as a service, with AI at its core, and also some other principles like revenue from day one, meaning that we don't create products to get a lot of users and then one day hope that it becomes profitable. We try to have customers from day one after the launch. And right now, the main one that I'm focused is AskCory.ai. So it's, of course, AI assistant AI platform for people trying to get more customers, or for marketing professionals to build marketing plans for their clients. So depending on the use case, this can be used directly by entrepreneurs and small businesses, or it can be a marketing person working with different clients using this platform. So at the end of the day, this helps you come up with marketing strategies, with customer acquisition strategies much faster, instead of trying to do with your own experience or from your own ad, or Googling a lot, or trying to go to ChatGPT, which is still an option, but you really need to provide the right context and the right prompting questions to have very specific, tailored to your case results. So our platform is already trained for that. It also has access to benchmarks. So if we are talking about specific podcasts, it can, for instance, consider the examples of other successful podcasts and what were the acquisition channels that they already used. Besides this strategy part, it also builds, action plans and tells you what are the requirements and what should be the KPIs that you should measure. Because I discovered doing some research interviews, customer discovery interviews, that a lot of people forget at the beginning to establish what are the metrics to be measured and what are the key factors of success to say, okay, this acquisition channel made sense and paid off or had a good return or not. So the platform also suggests that. And nowadays, well, all of this is very recent, to be honest, but now the latest features are also related to content creation, content generation. So if you want to create blog posts, social media ads related to your project or product or business or whatever, the platform now also generates that for you.
Before we continue, I wanted to give a quick shout out to my freelancing website, Dollar Talent. Dollar Talent is a website where you can hire amazing writers for $5 per hour. You can also work with amazing designers for $15 per hour. Visit dollartalent.com to outsource your marketing content today. Cool. I'm really interested in seeing it in action. So let's share your screen and see how it works.
Okay, so I'm using already an example just to be faster on these episodes. An example that was already filled. In this case, is with the How to Make a Dollar YouTube podcast. I don't know if you already heard about this one. It's a great one. You should you should watch it. And so basically, of course, this is the common sense for all AI tools. The more specific you are with the inputs, the better and more specific will be also the outcomes, okay? Of course, this is a very quick example, but you can provide a little bit more detail to the AI assistant, to AskCory. So yeah, I'm just providing context, okay? What is the business or project about? So it's a YouTube podcast. What are the key features of that product or that podcast? Again, I was very brief, but it should be, with some other examples of features, or what is the service about, like what is the unique seller proposition. Some entrepreneurs, marketing people know how to answer these normally when they are with projects with their clients. Some early stage entrepreneurs or business owners, sometimes they struggle with this, but they have some examples when answering these, some examples to see what can be a good USP, unique selling proposition. Then what's the audience? Who will consume your podcast in this case? And all of this is made up by me, okay? Then what's the business goal at the moment? I wrote it here. Like, imagine that I'm a scrappy entrepreneur just launching a podcast and I have no budget for it. So it should be like only my own time being applied to this. Where are the potential customers or users or audience, and what is the time frame to achieve the goal that I put here on top? After answering this, you start getting, tactics for your project business, and also what is your goal. You can always generate more tactics if you are not totally happy, or if you just want to see more tactics and then choose. And then you can go, for instance, I generated 9 tactics, and I can go here and go into more detail and see what are the ones that I like. So let's say, okay, I think that is a good idea to write how-to guides on the topics discussed on the podcast, so people can find me on search engines, and then become subscribers of the podcast, for instance. So I like this one. I can go into the guides and I can generate a detailed plan for this guide. So you will see that we will have step-by-step action plan, what are the requirements that also you need to implement these, and what are the metrics. And even before that, you can see, for instance, an example of a real life example of a company. In this case, very well known, HubSpot, how they already do this, and you have some more resources regarding the static if you want to check it out. You can also make some questions about this static in specific, because it's normal that you have other questions in your mind or any other barriers or something like that regarding how to apply this. As I said, you can see what are the steps suggested. Of course, you can always also edit the steps, add one more or remove if you think it makes sense. Also, because maybe it's not just you trying to implement this, but maybe you have a team that work with you, or at least another person, and then you can also share the tactic with that person, the tactic or the several tactics. Then what are the requirements that you need to implement these, and what can be the metrics that you should, take a closer look to see if you are being successful with this tactic or not. And then just to finish this part, in this case, for instance, as it is creating guides to your website, to your blog, maybe you can start generating that here inside AskCory as well. So it will already tells you, based on the project description or on the podcast description, some keywords that you can target. Of course, you can always change those and come up with new ones. What is the tone of voice that you want to use for that blog post? And you can also change what is the main topic. And I will just be very quick here. And you can then ask Corey to start generating the blog post. First, it will come up with some titles. If you are not happy, you can always suggest or ask suggestions for new titles. And then, yeah, the blog post starts being generated. Of course, all of these that you have inside AskCory is like other AI tools. You still need a human, okay? This will not replace marketing people or whatever is the role inside the company. You always need your own brains and experience to look at this and say, okay, out of these 9 tactics, these 2 can make sense. So now let's take this and try to implement better to our case, or tweak it a little bit. And it's the same with the assets, like blog posts. This will be probably 80% of your work back in the day, but then you still have the other 20% to see, for instance, is this the best keyword for my case to get traffic, or should I tweak a little bit the keywords? This is not the way that I like to start a blog post. Maybe I want to change a little bit. So of course, human beings are still needed, professionals are still needed to take this 80% of the job and make it 100% and make it, something that can have a great impact on your business or project.
This is really cool. I'm curious, what have you learned about marketing a marketing tool?
Before this or during this experience with AskCory?
With AskCory specifically, like it's a marketing tool, right? So I'm curious, like what do you learn about marketing, trying to market a marketing tool and building a marketing tool? You must have learned some really interesting things that our viewers would love to hear from you.
Yeah. We are also in the early days, and let me tell you one thing that I forgot to tell you before: how we come up with this idea on our studio, on our startup studio. Basically, to our own projects, we use a framework which is called the Bullseye framework. That you can find it on the book Traction from one of the co-founders of the browser DuckDuckGo. So what Bullseye framework tells you is, like, you are an early stage startup. So you have, few resources. You should, first brainstorm what can be the customer acquisition channels that can bring, customers, traffic, whatever, to your product or business. And then out of that brainstorming session that you can think about 30 different ideas to acquire customers, you will select the 3 that you think are best for your case, the resources that you have, your ideal customer profile, the stage that you are, the time that you have, etc. And so you experiment 3 different acquisition channels, already with the KPIs in place, of course, to then measure what are the ones that are successful. And if at least one of those channels is successful, beating the KPIs, then you should focus only on that channel until it stops, working as expected. If you stop until you stop growing as you need, and then you do the exercise again, and you pick a new tactic, a new channel to continue your growth path. So because we already use that framework, we use it in a whiteboard on Miro software for our own products in-house, but also besides the startup studio, where we have a resident team building our own products, we also have an incubator. So we also use this framework to help entrepreneurs on the incubator. And this learning cycle, we are using this framework in the last 2 years or so. For instance, wow. I use that to grow Tap My Back. We already have a lot of experience with that framework. And so that is on the genesis, let's say, of AskCory.ai. Right now, we are, trying different channels to get acquisition, to get traffic, to AskCory website and landing pages, and then get conversions. And I'm doing different stuff. Also because at this stage, we still want a lot of feedback to continue improve the experience, the value proposition. And right now, as I told you in the beginning, maybe somebody is thinking about this, I told you that we can serve startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, but also marketing people. And at this exact point, we are not sure what is the best ideal customer profile, the best persona to grow the business and grow faster and have a better product market fit. So I'm doing a little bit of social selling is one of the things. So on LinkedIn and on X, I try to provide value first through my posts and through my replies to other people's posts. Try to provide value to the potential clients or personas that we target. And then I engage in one-on-one conversations through direct messaging is one of the things that we do. The other thing that we are trying right now is meta ads. So because we already have a lot of feedback and quality feedback, but from, 100 early stage users, now we want to have more volume on the value propositions on our website. So we are doing meta ads to then validate what is the best value proposition and what is also the best ideal customer profile.
Right. Wow. That's definitely really interesting perspective on marketing, from how you approach marketing at your startup incubator and accelerator, as you said, to how you're doing it for AskCory. That's really interesting. So Vítor, you've been around the block, right? Entrepreneurship in the offline world, and then now with this tool. What advice do you have? What's the best advice you've received so far in your career that you'd like to share with our audience?
Great question. The best advice of all. I think, or the first one that comes to my mind is like, don't build before you have some kind of validation. It comes from the mistake that I did with the car maintenance marketplace. I did some, surveys for car owners, but they were biased, okay? And I did, in the end, it resulted well because the car owners really had that pain that we were trying to solve. But with mechanics, with repair shop owners, they didn't buy the value proposition that we were delivering. So I should have been more, cautious with the discovery phase before starting to build an MVP. And the MVP in that case took for ages as well, but that's other story and other problems. So I would say, and we did this with AskCory and we do this on the studio, we come up with an idea, okay, under our principles, but we don't build it right away. We go and talk under that scope. We try to see what are people doing, the potential customers doing right now. So if they need to go from A to B. Imagine in more than 100 years ago, people can go by walking, by train, or by horse. But maybe you can discover how is their journey to then understand if you really need to build a car. And in this case, it's obvious, that cars are very useful right now. It was more than 1 century ago, but that's a good example. So people don't really care if it's a horse, a train, walking, or a car. It's not so much about the product itself. It's about the experience. It's about what you get from car, why car is better. So you should start interviewing people, trying to understand how is their journey today, what are their pains and their needs that are not being served right now. And only after that, you come up probably with a landing page, with something like that, to try to validate even further if your potential products serve them. And only after you have that kind of validation, that data, those insights, you should start build your product, your solution.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it any better. That has been Vitor, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes. Peace out.